The new pack for Pokemon Pocket TCG has leaked. We have it all on PokemonMeta.com. Are you ready? Let's hop right into it. Boom. What is this? Arceus EX, Leafeon EX. We have all of the new EX Pokemon, every single one of them. So let's open them up right here. Starting off with Arceus EX. Now, this was leaked already in the TikTok advertisement video, which many people in my comments said was fake. So now you know that it, in fact, was not fake. And even though there was an improbable field with all of the Garchomps and Gabites and all that nonsense, it looks like the developers just made a custom field, which looked fake, but it was actually real. Now, beyond that nonsense, Arceus EX, what is so good? We have the ability Fabled Luster. This Pokemon cannot be affected by any special conditions. Now, I talked about this already from the tier list that there's nothing that's top tier that's even inflicting special conditions. But as we go through the leaks, maybe there's some good top tier on the horizon EX Pokemon that maybe will inflict a special condition that the Arceus EX will be able to dodge. So we'll be getting into that if that is even the case. And then we have the ability, Ultimate Force, 70 damage for 3 energy, colorless, so the whole Pokemon's colorless at 140 health, and it deals 20 damage for each of your bench Pokemon, meaning it's going to deal a total of 130 damage with a full bench, and it can retreat for 2 or for free if you use Leaf. All right, now I did take a peek at some of the cards, and it looks like a lot of the other cards before you pass judgment on Arceus EX, they gain bonuses and benefits based off of Arceus EX being on the field. It could be on the bench or in the active spot, and they're going to be gaining additional abilities. So we'll make sure to be paying attention to that. The other EX Pokemon, Leafeon. Leafeon EX, 140 health, grass Pokemon, retreat for 1 cost. We have the ability Force Breath. Once during your turn, if this Pokemon is in the active spot, you may take a grass energy from your energy zone and attach it to one of your grass Pokemon. Now, this has to be in the active spot where, usually abilities could work from the bench. And then I guess you could attach the grass either to itself or to anything on the bench that is a grass Pokemon. Solar Beam, we have 1 grass energy plus 2 colorless for dealing 70 damage. And what this means is you don't have to use grass energy in your deck if you want to put this in. I guess I thought it was unintended that we had a card like Magnezone being played in a non-lightning energy deck, but I guess they're all for it, where they do not want you to have to use the main energy of the Pokemon type to put it in whatever deck you want. So there you go. I guess a more consistent mono energy type deck, and then just toss Leafeon in if you want to. Do I think that'll be the best way to play this? Well, I mean, compared to Magnezone, 110 damage, and it could supply its energy from the bench with Magneton, comparing it to that does not seem that good. Now, the best deck right now is Executor Celebi EX. So would it have a spot in this deck? Well, in our active spot, we have the Executor EX with Celebi sitting on the bench. So I really don't, when it comes to that deck, I don't see it making that deck better. But I don't know. We're going to have to look at the other cards. I think this is overall underwhelming. And also the Arceus, it does not seem too good until we read the other cards that get boosted by the Arceus. But the Arceus is also comparable to a card like the Magnezone, where you would put it into any deck where the Magnezone is essentially colorless. Now, Magnezone, of course, is an evolution stage 2, where the Arceus is just by itself. Now, let's see what else we have here. We have Glaceon and Probopass. Ooh, what are these? Let me close some of these tabs here. Glaceon is here. Snowy terrain. 140 base health. We are water. During the Pokemon checkup, which I believe is the start of the turn. So we could double check that real quick. Pokemon TCG checkup phase. I believe it's the start of the turn. So let's see that real quick. Checking each player's Pokemon special conditions, the checkup phase, it does not count as either player's turn. It must be done for both players' Pokemon. So while it's not considered the turn itself, it's pretty much the start of the turn. So during the start of the turn, or some people may consider it the end of the turn, if this Pokemon is in the active spot, do 10 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. Okay, so end of the turn, start of the turn, it's going to be once per turn, deal 10 damage every single turn, kind of like poison. Okay, and then we have Freezing Wind for 90 damage, requiring 2 water plus a colorless to deal 90 damage. This is a lot different than the Leafeon, where Leafeon is just 1 grass, and you can put it in a non-grass deck since it supplies its own energy. Instead, the Glaceon's going to be poking for 10 damage every turn, as you're going to have to put this in a water-centric deck to ensure you could get Freezing Winding. Or you could just get lucky with Misty and Misty it up for your instant Freezing Wind for 90 as you're dealing 10 damage in addition to that. Okay, cool. Now let's see what else is good. Probopass. Defensive unit. We have a metal-type Pokemon, 160 base health, stage 1 evolution. Defensive unit for 90 damage, 2 metal energy plus a colorless. During your opponent's next turn, this Pokemon takes minus 20 damage from attacks. Now, that is very similar to the Melmetal, right? Yes, Melmetal here, which is not an EX Pokemon, where it just inherently takes 20 less damage from attacks. And that is being used mostly in a Dialga X-Metal deck. Now, where's that on the tier list here? It is not tier 3, tier 4. It is it not even here? I guess it fell off. Yeah, it fell off of the tier list. That's okay. Metal, we could look at it on the top decks page here. So even though it is not a top tier deck right now, it still has some tournament tops of doing quite well. Now, is this going to be the replacement? Is this going to be the better card to be playing instead? 90 damage, 3 energy, where the Melmetal itself is 4 energy to deal 120. So I would say it's a bit more accessible based off of that. They're both stage 1. And 130 health on the Melmetal, 160 for the Probopass, so it's chunkier, and more quickly will be dealing its 90 damage. So you tell me if this will be placed specifically in a Dialga deck or in its own. I'm not so sure. Let's see what other leaks we have here. We have, keep on going down. So these are 4 EX Pokemon so far, meaning there's only 1 left. So if you're not excited about these, then I don't know what to tell you, because this is a mini set. It's not a big one like we just had. Garchomp EX. This was in the video, but I couldn't really read the first ability it had. Linear attack. First of all, 170 health. That is massively large. Stage 2 for the Garchomp. If I were to look at the most popular cards in order, the Diamond 4 cards, we'll look at the EX Pokemon essentially. We'll see the health of them. Executor at 160 health, so quite similar to that. Charizard, of course, 180. Oh my Jesus, that is massive. So it is still bigger. Charizard is than the Garchomp. So this is just the general health ranges. Infernape is a 170 health Pokemon, but this is very nice to see. And then for just 1 fighting energy, also it's got 1 retreat cost. That's worth noting. For linear attack is the first ability. For 1 fighting energy, deal 50 damage to 1 of your opponent's Pokemon, no matter where they are. So a big part of the meta is being centered around the Darkrai sitting on the bench, continually dealing that 20 damage endlessly to you. And now we pretty much had what? Our best Pokemon was pretty much Hitmonlee, yes? Hitmonlee stretching its kick out for 30 damage, which takes a while to take out a Darkrai. And the Hitmonlee notably being used in a, wow, the Marshadow deck has really dropped in prevalence all the way down here. Marshadow, let's control F, Marshadow. Yeah, Marshadow Rampardos is actually the best Marshadow deck we have at the moment, where the Hitmonlee is prevalently being used in it. Yep, so I guess time for a Garchomp deck. It's time to set aside the Hitmonlee or use it in addition to the Hitmonlee. So 3 attacks with Garchomp will be enough to knock out a Darkrai from the bench. And then we have Dragon Claw for just 3 energy, 2 fighting, and a colorless, dealing that 100 damage. Now, the Garchomp is also going to be boosted by the Cynthia. And I let it be known that I was quite upset with Cynthia not being a good usable card on release, as the Garchomp we had without this one is quite crappy. This one is not cool, not an EX Pokemon. So I did note that. This is also a Dragon type Pokemon where the new one is fighting. And the Cynthia will be dealing a 50 plus damage in addition to whatever it does. So plus 50 damage. That is nice. Cynthia, but boosting up that Garchomp, crushing the bench, and then also Dragon Clawing for big damage. Very nice. This is going to be a real deck, straight up. I don't know. Is this contender for the new best deck, possibly? Let me look real quick on the tier list. Executor, weak to fire, of course, grass. What is weak to fighting? Ooh, we got Magnezone, weak to fighting. You have the Dark Claw with the Cynthia being able to one-shot a Magnezone. I think that is quite nice, where otherwise it will deal 120 damage. So it being 50 on top of 100 plus an additional 20, 170 damage, meaning even if you have a giant cape on this Magnezone, it is dead. So making sure, too, that even through any damage buffers, that it is still going down. That is wonderful. Great. So it should definitely not be seen as overkill. We need to be killing the Magnezone. This is the Magnezone killer, and so many decks are using Magnezone. This has to be the new best deck. That is what I am thinking. Hopefully we could actually look at some of the supporter trainer cards, maybe making evolution type Pokemon even more consistent. So we'll be looking at that. I actually have no details off the top of my head on that, but I know it's in this article. And let me give this article a refresh in case we have any other updated leaks. Now, let's see. We have Pokemon cards. I think I want to skip to the supporter cards. Is that good? So quick little skip. I can't read it. Supporter cards. Ooh, I'm going to look at this one right away. Irida states, heal 40 damage from each of your Pokemon that has a water energy attached. Wait a second. All of your water. What the heck? We got Misty and this. So Erica notably is healing your grass Pokemon for 50. It is just one grass Pokemon. And then the Irida is healing for 40 on every single water Pokemon, alongside the already very powerful Misty randomly doing nothing or randomly winning the entire game. So on top of that, being able to heal now, that is crazy good. Holy moly. What are the most prevalent water decks right now? Let's type in water energy type Pokemon. We got Greninja that's going to get healed up. Palkia maybe can make a big comeback here. Gyarados, Articuno. Oh my Jesus, this is crazy. We can also see on the tier list, I think Palkia, Gyarados is doing better than Palkia right now. So there you go. Palkia there, tier 4. Gyarados at tier 3. And what are the win rates again? Mewtwo has really fallen off. Is anyone really sad about that? Because other decks I feel like have not fallen off as much as Mewtwo, as this has a 68% win rate, clapping them up. But enough of that. We have Adaman. What does Adaman do? Supporter, okay. During your opponent's next turn, all of your, what is that? Is that metal energy? Take minus 20 damage from attacks from the opponent's Pokemon. Yeah, I do think that is the metal deck type. Yep, there you go. That is what the energy is. So right now we have Skarmory doing insanely well. Skarmory at tier 2. So if we could help support the Skarmory, here's the win rates against other decks that the Skarmory is doing. Skarmory could get supported by the Adaman. And this is kind of similar to the Blue. Blue reduces damage by 10 from all of your Pokemon, not just the metal one. And then this one's going to be dealing 20. Reduction of 20, that is. Very nice. Okay. Wait, these are only the support cards we have so far. Sure. But I do want to jump down to here to tell you great news that the Space-Time Smackdown will be tradable with this new pack. Anything you're missing out on, let's say you don't have your Magnezone, you'll now be able to trade for it. And then also, ranked PvP should not be with this update, but it should be coming out in March due to, from a notable leaker of Pokemon Pocket so far. They've been right so far. And now let's check out the other Pokemon, which I did promise. Some of them, or many of them, have bonuses when Arceus is on the field. whether it's on the bench or in the active spot, they're going to get boosted. So let's see that. We'll just look at the view from here. What is this? Obama Snow. Okay, so what is this doing? Vigor Link. If you have an active, you have not active, but you have an Arceus in play, and in play could be the bench, the field, or an energy attached. Last time I remember looking up something like this, but we don't have energy attached cards like that. Attacks used by this Pokemon cost 1 less energy. So with Arceus anywhere in the field, we have a reduced Mega Punch. So for 2 water, get Punchin' for 80. Stage 1 evolution, there you go. And then Carnivine, another Arceus boosted Pokemon. Arceus is anywhere. And now your Vine Whip, that is for 1 grass energy, instead of dealing 20, is going to deal an additional plus 30 to your opponent's active Pokemon. 50 damage for 1 grass energy. That does remind me of the current best deck here, Executor, where Executor is dealing 40 to 80. But the more consistent, I guess it would do 50. You tell me the math here on what, over 4 or 5 attacks, tropical swinging versus a more consistent 50 damage. What ends up being better? It's only 10 more damage, but consistently 10 more damage. It is a basic Pokemon also at 80. So that is also worth noting, where you don't have to evolve it into the Executor. And instead of having a Celebi on your bench, I guess you have an Arceus. Sure. Okay. Nice. So Arceus type decks, whether you want it to be water or grass. Let's see what else we got here. Crobat. Well, more importantly, we have Eevee. Another Eevee. How many freaking Eevees we got, mate? Don't we already have a Tail Whip Eevee? A Tackle, a Quick Attack, a Growl, a Continuous Steps, Tackle, Quick Attack. All right, well, add Tail Whap, not Whip. Tail Whap? Tail Whap to the mix. 30 damage. Okay, great. Anyway, Crobat. Cunning Link, 110 energy, stage 2 evolution. Holy moly. Should this be, hopefully this is good. Once during your turn, if you have an Arceus in play, you may deal 30 damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. All right, so this will work from the bench. This is going to be a contender with Darkrai in a way, yes? Or is it going to be used with Darkrai? So Darkrai dealing 20 damage to the active Pokemon from the bench, and then Crobat dealing a 30. So, oh, wow. Are we going to be replacing Magnezone? Do we have room, though? Darkrai, Crobat, Arceus, can we squeeze all that much Pokemon within a single deck? Maybe this will be one of the few Pokemon decks where we don't really play supporter cards. We're just maxed out on Pokemon within the main deck to turn on all their abilities and get smacking, yes? I think that could really be working out. 50 damage is huge. And then you don't scoff at the very easy to use Darkness Fang for 50 damage. We also have 0 retreat cost. No retreat, 1 Darkness Energy for 50, then 30 damage in addition for its ability, which could be used while on the bench. I'm like reading this 10 times over. This seems too good to be true. Yeah, this could be used from the bench. What the? Okay, let's keep on going. Golbat, biting for 30, 80 health, sure. Heatran, this was in the video, but I couldn't really read what it could do. Heatran, 110 health. So we have the fire part of an Arceus deck. Arceus in play. This Pokemon has no retreat cost if you have Arceus. That seems like the weakest Arceus benefit. But this is a basic for 110 health. And 110 health is super chonky. Right, what is one of the best? I put a Rocky Helmet on this, yes? So basic Pokemon, the most popular basic Pokemon. Oh, I guess we don't have that filter on correct. So I guess we're going to, oh, there we go. It actually does work. So the most popular basic Pokemon, Celebi being an even chonkier 130 basic Pokemon, Darkrai, of course, at 140, but they are EX. So non-EX, Heatran, giving only 1 point if they actually defeat it. The Druddigon is 10 less, but has a double retreat, and this should be retreating for free. I know another popular one is Kangaskhan. Kangaskhan at 100. So I think that Heatran should be compared to Druddigon and Kangaskhan. So let's see what's good with that. otherwise 3 retreats, so you definitely want the Arceus to get the benefit of pulling it out after it takes some damage, possibly with the Rocky Helmet. And then 2 Fire Energy. Raging Mad Strike, 40 plus damage. If this Pokemon has damage on it, this attack does 40 more damage. I mean, that's like the whole point of Druddigon. You don't want to attack Druddigon because it deals 20 damage to you. And what, now you're not going to want to attack the Heatran because it's going to deal an additional 40 damage? I think that this actually, well, you see, initially I'm like, wow, that ability sucks, but now I'm thinking this is probably the best Arceus type Pokemon for an Arceus-ish deck. Now, I would be thinking, is because it's 110 health, is it still worth it to shield at 110 health, even if you don't play Fire Energy whatsoever? I think possibly, even in a deck with no Fire Energy, this still may see some use. But I'd be more excited to see it be used with Fire Energy. That'd be a lot cooler. Now, Fire Energy on the tier list, of course, is going to be Charizard. Where's Charizard at tier 3? Do we have room for this where we're already building up with the Moltres and, you know, the Charizard? I don't think we have room for it in this deck. And then we need Arceus in addition to that. But as I said earlier, maybe Arceus is going to be opening up ways of not playing as many supporter-type cards because the Arceus and the Arceus-type Pokemon are pretty much replacements for supporters, yes? And then you do have to note that the more Pokemon you're putting in that are basic in your deck, it does in a way make your deck less consistent because now they're going to be sharing the pool of your basic Pokemon that you pull from initially within a duel. So that's pretty cool. Let's see what else we have here. The Metal Magnemite. Tackle for 20. Okay. Nose Pass. Tackle for 10. Sure. Magnemite Metal, the alt art. And then we got the Magnezone, Metal Magnezone. So this, of course, will be compared to the Magnezone we have, which there's no way it's going to be better than this because I think this is completely unintended. So just do understand, we have 140 health on the current Magnezone. It's essentially colorless, and it requires no energy from your energy zone. It fully supplies its own energy through the Magneton. So, geez, like what were they thinking? So the new Magnezone, which of course will not be better, what does it do? If you have Arceus in play, this Pokemon takes 30 reduced damage from attacks. And then Power Beam for 80. Okay, so it's a super well-protected Pokemon with the Adamant giving an additional 20 damage reduction. That's pretty cool. Resilience Link, nice. Lots of Arceus and going around. Okay. I think I'm a bigger fan of the Heatran, though. Heatran. Okay. Yeah, so this is not giving me broken vibes of the older Magnezone. Then we have Raichu. Resilience Link. Again, same ability. We have damage reduction, 30 damage reduction if you have an Arceus on a non-metal Pokemon. We have Spark for 40 damage. This attack also does 20 damage to one of your opponent's benched Pokemon. Ooh, that's quite interesting. Where we have the prevalent strategy of Darkrai hiding on the bench, so even more Pokemon being able to attack the bench, it seems like a really good idea to make the meta a lot more diverse. I was thinking that tournaments need to start using multi-decks because of how rock, paper, scissors the format seems to be. Now, what we're going to have to all be thinking about Pikachu EX with this one. Pikachu EX. So if we bring up Pikachu EX, could bring on one of the decks here, click on any of them. We can then go to the Pikachu EX breakdown. We could just go to the tier list here. The main thing about Pikachu EX is that it's benched lightning Pokemon. And it seems like Raichu's not even that prevalently being used in the best way to play the deck. And if we're gonna, so here are the decks that are using Raichu if you want to sort by Raichu. Can you really see the new Raichu being used over the older one, where this does Thunderbolt for 140 damage and we have Lieutenant Surge to help supply that lightning energy? I don't see it happening because with lightning energy needing to be on the bench, the Arceus is not lightning. But again, I keep on saying it that I guess we would take out supporter items, trainer items that is, and the Arceus is essentially a trainer item. So I don't know, a resilient Link Raichu instead of a Wham Bam Thank You Ma'am Thunderbolt for 140, when that already is not the best way to play it. but maybe this will be the new best way to play Pikachu. I just don't see it, though. 40 is too little damage. We got Hitmonlee already stretch kicking for 30. Rotom, 70 health, psychic, basic Pokemon. Ability is Speed Link. If you have an Arceus, this Pokemon has no retreat cost whatsoever, so I guess similar to the Heatran. Heatran has a lot more health, though. Dash attack, colorless. This does 20 damage to one of your opponent's bench Pokemon. Ooh, now I'm conflicted. This is quickly attacking the bench and doesn't require Psychic Energy, where the Heatran is going to require Fire Energy to even do anything beyond its 110 health bulk. I still lean towards the 110 health bulk. So if we were to compare Heatran in a non-fire deck and Rotom in a non-fire deck, I think in a way I would almost want to think about playing one of each for having an aggressive start or a defensive start, being able to quickly dash onto the bench Pokemon. I think a good comparison to the Rotom would be the Hitmonlee, yes? Hitmonlee, 80 basic health, and then stretch kick for 30 damage instead of 20. But you are then tied to a fighting type deck. So essentially, if you want to put a Hitmonlee in any energy type deck, and then also alongside an Arceus if you want to get the most utility out of it. But I would think maybe you don't even play Arceus with this, because retreat cost, so what? Maybe just let this die as you just continually poke away their benched. They gain 1 prize or 1 point for killing the Rotom, and hopefully the Rotom is just applying a ton of pressure through dash attacking, similar to a Hitmonlee. So I like this. So a lot of different versatile strategies I could see coming from the set possibly. Now, what else do we have here? Shaymin. As long as this Pokemon is on your bench, your active basic Pokemon retreat cost is 1 less. Very interesting. Alongside Leaf, you could reduce the cost of retreat by 3 now. So Leaf -2, Shaymin, and then do it again. What powerful strategies will that be used with? I don't know. Let's see real quick. Let's type in EX only Pokemon. The most prevalently used Pokemon. Executor's got a 3 retreat cost. What else has a 3 retreat cost here that's popular? Gyarados with a 3 retreat cost. So I don't know if we're teching this into any deck that has a popular Pokemon at 3 retreat costs or not. Now we have Tyranitar. 160, but it's not going to be an EX, so I'm going to be tempering down my expectations here. Stage 2 evolution, of course. Power Link. You have Arceus. So I don't know. I mean, are y'all cool with this? You like that every Pokemon gets boosted by Arceus being on the field? Attacks used by this Pokemon deal an additional +30 to your opponent's active Pokemon. So we have Land Crush for a whopping 160 fighting energy attack. It does cost a whopping 4 energy, and the Pokemon is super bulky also. I would say that even with this not being an EX Pokemon, I'm quite surprised by how powerful this is. Because I'm thinking of a Pokemon like Garchomp, which seemed really crappy. Weaker, dealing less damage, a lot less usable beyond its ability being able to draw. And the Tyranitar could actually, put up a fight, knock out some Pokemon. And then if you try to contest it, plowing through 160 health is no easy feat. And then for the whole 160 health, you're just getting 1 point after knocking this out. That's going to really suck for the opponent. That is crazy. In a way, I could totally see this being a deck type. Okay. And then what if we put the Lucario with this? Will this be even nicer, right? Will this be with Lucario? Probably not. But I can imagine that with Lucario, we're going to deal an additional 20 plus the 30. So 180 damage with the Tyranitar. And if we're going to be imagining it dealing 180 damage, which, again, not too likely, but let's see. The most popular EX Pokemon in order. What are we knocking out here? So without the 180, at just 160, we're completely knocking out Executor, knocking out a Darkrai, say goodbye to Celebi. What is not getting knocked out by the Tyranitar at 160 damage here? We have Charizard, which if we had Lucario, we do one-shot the Charizard. Tyranitar is one-shot in the Palkia. And with the Gyarados, again, with the Lucario, Gyarados and Charizard will get knocked out. So quite interesting. Cool. Yeah, I see this working. Now, what else we have here? We have, okay, we saw the nose pass, but we could see the Giratina. This is a very bad quality image. I'm going to try my best to figure this out. 120 health. We are a dragon-type Pokemon. Looks like we're using Leaf, Psychic, and Colorless to deal 120 damage for just 3 energy. We got the triple retreat cost. This is a basic Pokemon, though. And as I was talking about the triple retreat cost, we could use the Leaf plus the Shaymin, but probably not. This says something 2 energy from this Pokemon. So I would say discard. Discard 2 energy from this Pokemon after dealing 120 for just 3 energy. Okay. Not so sure how good that is. And before we go to the rest of the cards here, let's do a quick refresh to see if there's anything updated. While we have every single EX Pokemon, we don't have all of the Pokemon as they have not been leaked yet. And let's see what else we have here. Event promo cards and cosmetics. This is not a different Darkrai. It's the same one, just different alternative art. And then what do we have here? Everything we've already seen pretty much. I don't think we did see a Gibble, Cherim. Let's just open this up. Let's see what's up with this. What's going on here? Cherim. I think this may be too difficult to read. Heal 20 damage, I believe, from this Pokemon. Is that a stage 2? I'm not familiar with Cherim. Raichu looking crazy here. Okay, nose pass. Staraptor. Can I even read this Staraptor? I will try. Is Staraptor a stage 2? I could Google it, or you could just tell me in the comments. 140 health. Defensive Whirlwind. This Pokemon takes minus, I would say, 30 damage, right? Minus 30 damage from Pokemon, from a certain Pokemon type. Is this essentially a pseudo resistance? In the Pokemon TCG, there is a resistance to certain attacks, which they removed from Pokemon Pocket. So I guess they could add that to the abilities. I have no idea what that is. But Wing Attack for 90 damage, triple colorless energy. Pretty cool. Okay. Boy, what is that from? Something Pokemon. Something only a specific type are taking reduced damage from. Okay. I guess it's kind of interesting. And what else we have here? We have the Adaman and what's her name? Uridai, I think her name was. I'm not familiar with these trainers. Again, my knowledge is up to like Pokemon Silver and Gold, playing a ton of Pokemon Blue and Red. What else we have here? Okay, Arceus. It's all about the Arceus. Arceus here. Arceus top tier. Then I already talked about the trade feature where the last set will be tradable. Ranked PvP coming in March. Upcoming events. Grass Mass Outbreak featuring Leafeon EX and an Emblem event. What are people saying here? Irida will be very good for water decks. Yes, of course. Alongside Misty. Yes. And I was talking about how, what do we have here? I'm searching it through, or is Ghastly? Ghastly in Ghastly deck here. Why am I bringing up Ghastly? Because Gengar. So here's a Gengar deck, and that Gengar will only become better in the future, where this states that while in the active spot, your opponent can't use any supporter cards from their hand. So I don't know, with that new water support card, but then something that's not so good about the Gengar now is that everyone's going to be using Arceus, right? Or at least the newer decks, and Arceus is kind of replacing supporter cards. So I don't know, keep your eye out for Gengar maybe coming up in the future at random moments. It could have its time. A card like Executor within the very first set, out of nowhere, became part of the best deck, which is quite wild and unexpected. What else do we have here? Where's Torterra EX? Well, Barb, I'm very sorry that, based off of the Mythical Island only having 5 new EX cards, this is it. This is every single EX card. So there you go. Make sure you go to PokemonMeta.com if you want to see the ever so updating tier list that happens every single day, updating with all of the top deck lists. This is including Asian events. So there are many websites that are not covering the Asian scene. I'm not sure why, but we are including them because they are definitely relevant to what's going on with the game. And, it's very good about the Asian scene, Japanese players, Chinese players, Korean players, everyone from Asia, the other ones too, the other countries. They are closely aligning what the global meta is anyway. So they just help assist in a more accurate tier list. And also, check out the first place deck list. especially the Asian names. So that's pretty cool here. Speaking of Asian tournaments, what's winning Asian events? So if you want to see first place tournament winners from the Asian events, I don't know where any other website I could find these, but here you go. Pokemon Meta for the Asian tournament winners. Check them out. And I'm sure some of them are extra spicy. So that's very cool to see there. And then also beyond that, I'll see you in the Discord. So Pokemon Meta, discord.com/invite. I'll put the invite somewhere in the pinned comment or in the description, where you are going to want to be trading for the brand new set that we just had, the Space Time Showdown. So you'll be able to start trading for that now, where otherwise you would have not been able to. And you can start setting up your trades early. So if you're looking for a Magnezone, get that ready and you'll be good. And all that and more in other videos. Thank you all very much for watching. We are out.